Let's see how to create a Windows 11 virtual machine on VirtualBox. The first thing we need to do is download and install VirtualBox. This can be done from virtualbox.org. And here we need to click on the big blue button, download VirtualBox 7. And since I'm on Windows, I'm going to choose Windows hosts. And VirtualBox is being downloaded. I already downloaded it, so I'm going to stop this download. And once you finish downloading the VirtualBox installer, just hit enter, run it, and the installation is very standard, nothing special there. Just go with the default options, next, 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 until the end of the installation. The next thing we're going to need is the Windows 11 ISO file. ISO is a file format that VirtualBox uses to create virtual machines. So, to find the Windows 11 ISO file, let's open Google. And here I'm just going to look for download Windows 11 ISO. And usually it will come up as the first option, but make sure that the link you click on is from Microsoft.com. Nothing else, only Microsoft.com, and then we can safely click on the link. So we have a few options for Windows installation. We have the Windows 11 Installation Assistant. That's not what we want, so let's scroll down. And then we have the Create Windows 11 Installation Media. We also don't want that, so let's keep scrolling down. And finally, we have Windows 11 Disk Image, or ISO, for x64 devices. That's the one we want. So here I'm going to select Download, and of course I'll choose Windows 11, which is the only option. Then we need to click on Download Now. Next, we need to choose a language. Windows always has its default language, and here is where we choose it. I'll go with English, but you can go with any language you want. And then we need to click on Confirm. And the download link was created. You can see it here, 64-bit download. And when I click on it, we can see that the download starts. I already downloaded this file. It's a pretty big file, so I already downloaded it. So I'll cancel this download. Now that we have our ISO file, we're ready to open VirtualBox. So let's look for VirtualBox. Here it is. And now we're going to create a new virtual machine. But first, let's make sure that we know where the ISO file was downloaded to. Usually it's going to be in the Downloads folder. And indeed, we can see it here. So now let's get back to VirtualBox and choose New. We need to give a name to our new virtual machine. I just call it Windows 11 Fresh Install. And then we need to choose the ISO image. That's the big ISO file we just downloaded. So we need to click on the arrow here on the right. Then we click on Other. And we need to locate the ISO file in our file system. So for me it was in the Downloads folder, so I can find it here. And then we need to click on Open. Next, we need to choose which edition of Windows we want. So as you can see, you have all of the options here. So you can install the Windows 11 Home Edition, or if you prefer, the Windows 11 Pro Edition, and that's what I'll go with. And let's click on Next. Next, we need to provide the username for Windows. You can use anything, but many people just use their own name. Then you also need to provide the password. And of course, we have to type it again just to make sure we didn't have any typos. Next, we need to click on Guest Editions. This is important, as this will allow us to use the virtual machine with the native resolution of our monitor. And once we're done with that, we can click on Next. Here we need to set how much memory we want to allocate to the virtual machine. What we see here, this number is the minimum amount, but I highly recommend that you go with something bigger. This amount of memory is not really enough for Windows 11. It will work, but it will be somewhat sluggish. I suggest to allocate at least 8 GB. But in any case, make sure that you stay within the green zone. If you allocate too much and go out of the green zone, you run the risk of a crash of the host operating system. Because even if in your case, the virtual machine is the one that does the heavy lifting, you must keep in mind that the host operating system is the one that interacts with the outside world. So giving a lot of RAM to the virtual machine is good, but don't give it too much. The same thing goes for the processors. Try to give a big amount, as much as you can, but stay within the green zone. I go with 4 processors. Then let's click on Next. Next, we need to set the size of the virtual hard disk. Here you can really give as much as you want, as long as you have the space in your physical hard disk. I'll go with the default, which is 80 gigabytes. We get a summary of the choices we made, and as soon as we'll click on Finish, the virtual machine will start. So let's do that. Let's click on Finish. And we can see that the virtual machine is powering up. And here we can see it. So we need to press on any key to boot from CD or DVD. Let's hit Enter. And now the process of Windows installation will start. This is a long process and it will take anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. But luckily, since this process is running within the virtual machine, you can keep using your physical machine normally. Anyway, I'll wait for this process to finish and I'll get back once it's done. Okay, so the installation is done and now we can see Windows 11 running on our virtual machine on top of our physical computer, which is also running Windows 11. And this is a completely usable operating system. You can basically do here everything you can on your host operating system. So we can look for applications, we can run them, and we can, of course, use them. One last thing I want to talk about is how to use the virtual machine in full screen mode. To enable this feature, we'll have to restart the virtual machine once, only once. And the virtual machine was restarted, and now we can change the size of its window, and we can see that the virtual machine uses the entire size of this window. And if we click on Ctrl F, and it has to be the control that's on the right control, okay? So right Ctrl F, we get this message that tells us that we're about to switch to full screen mode. So let's switch. And now the virtual machine uses the entire monitor. If we want to get out of the virtual machine and back to the host machine, we again click on right Ctrl and F. And here we have it.